Hello, I am Merida Cave Diver, and I welcome you back for part 2 of this adventure. In the last video, you saw my partner and I do the very first exploration dive with the goal of understanding what we're getting into and finding the end of the line. The ultimate plan, however, is to pick up from there, lay down some new cave line, and then push this route inside this cave a little further. I'll cover more about this in a bit because, as you can tell, I wasn't really messing around on this dive. Prior to getting started though, I was tagging along for a Tech 40 class and I had the instructor set up a beacon for me at the cave entrance and stage my deco tanks, in case you're wondering how I got to the cave entrance so fast. Okay, so here we are, the beacon is flashing, and as I move in you can see the line that we've established last time. We did this on the last dive to accomplish 2 goals. The first was to repair the cave line and lock it down through the restriction. The second was to take this step of establishing a jump off the things I would need to do. This both reduces complexity on the dive and saves me a bit of time. So into the first part of the dive, which is the restriction. This time it's going to be a lot simpler, and now it's actually going to be a very good time to talk about my setup. Today, the plan, if all goes well, is for me to do the dive on 2 tanks. So right now I'm running with 2 tanks on my side, and I have 2 tanks on my tail that I'm going to use for staging. So I have a 50% nitrox and 100% O2 staged for me at 22 meters and 6 meters respectively. If you're just tuning in and have no idea what I'm talking about, don't worry, you're in luck. I made a narrated cave dive earlier where I explain exactly what deco is. Now in the last dive, we learned that it takes 1 full tank to get to the end of the line. This means we won't have enough air to go any further unless we stage some tanks along the way. This dive is going to be a solo run to stage 2 tanks, and there's going to be some interesting surprises along the way. But first, if you're doing the math and you're wondering how I'm going to do this dive on 2 tanks when the exploration dive took 1 tank just to get to the end, that's a good question. The answer, however, is that I'm not going to the end. I'm going to go about halfway, and I'm going to stage tanks in the reverse order, meaning that I'm going to take 4 tanks with me, and I'm going to stage the farthest tank first. So here we are into the dive, and I'm making my way to the drop point. You can't tell from the video that anything is going wrong, but I'm going to share with you that I'm not feeling okay. I'm not in danger, everything is okay, but psychologically the dive just feels different. In a bit of a way, it's starting to get to me. I can't fully explain why. I do a lot of solo diving, and honestly, I like to go by myself, but today just seems a little bit different. I share this with you for a few reasons. First and foremost, yeah, sometimes I get scared when I'm diving. I share this with you because some of you comment that you could never do this. So what am I thinking right now? Well, that's a great question. It's hard to see on the video, but I needed to do a few things. I needed to check my depth to make sure I wasn't experiencing narcosis. Then I needed to stabilize myself, and then I just needed to stop. I have everything I need. Logically, I know this. Emotionally, I can feel my heart racing. But I need to stop, regroup, and pull myself together. I'm close to the drop point, my air is on track, and if there's a problem, I have another 2 tanks with me. Like I said, it's not logical, it's emotional. But a key when you're diving like this is your ability to stay calm, see the situation for what it is, and sort yourself out. I share this because in my narrated dives, I want to share with you the experience of cave diving, and not just simply the dive itself. The dives are truly amazing. The scenery and the challenge is simply awesome, but it's not always easy peasy. So as I'm going through this, I know my drop point is just after this restriction, and as I break through, I'm preparing to drop my first staging tank. My Blacktip Tech DPV is working flawlessly, my air is on track, and even if I have an issue on the way back, I have enough air to swim my way out. Okay, the first tank is dropped, and as I begin my trek back, my head is clear, and I'll head into the first restriction and make my way to the next drop point. Believe it or not, as I go into the restriction, visibility is obviously a bit of an issue, but I'm feeling good. The trek back is uneventful, so I'm editing the journey for you, but since I know exactly where I'm going to drop my next tank, and because the cavern is huge, I can bump up my speed on my DPV to 5. While I'm cruising through the cavern, I think this is a good topic to cover. When you begin your dive and you're heading into the cave, it's not a good idea, in my opinion, to go any faster than the speed of 3 on the DPV that I have. I say that specifically because I can't speak for other units. But for me, With the black tip tech, and with the air calculations that I make, I can swim back in the event of a breakdown and have air to spare. If I were to go any faster, I would either need to change up my calculations or risk not having the right backup plan should something go wrong. On the way out of the dive, I don't have the same concerns because I'm moving faster towards the exit, not away from it. I really want to be clear here because I try and reduce the risk and build safety in all of my dives. Surviving the dive is not the same as having a successful dive. Earlier in the dive, I mentioned that it felt off. Well, I've had a lot of time to think about it, and I think I figured out what was going on. Normally, most of my solo dives are relatively easy. This dive wasn't exactly easy, and it was the most challenging solo dive I've ever done. So I think the issue was really that I was just alone, and I knew it. I've completed this dive now multiple times with friends, and oddly, even though cave diving is a bit of a solitary thing, being with someone just feels a little different. While this dive went well, for the time being anyway, I think I'm going to keep my solo adventures to relatively easy dives. Okay, so I dropped off the first tank at the halfway mark, and for the total dive tomorrow, the next tank is going to be placed right before the exit and the last restriction. With that being said, the exit should be simple, just 2 tanks and a nice pass-through. From here I pick up the beacon, head to my first deco stage, and then begin the deco process. Tomorrow is going to be a big day and I have a lot to get ready for. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give me a like and subscribe. As usual, I really hope you learned something, and I'm trying to give you a sort of next level view into cave diving. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them below and I'll try to answer everyone.